Hey, all right. So you've got a crazy story. So I'm just going to hit the audience in the face with this right now. You survived stage 4 cancer and a heart transplant, correct?
Yes. I
Those
mean,
are
I
double thumbs
describe,
up. Those were double thumbs up with a big smile and laugh. Look at that joy. All right, you got to tell
I
the audience
mean,
about this. What?
yeah.
Give us a story here.
I mean, first of all, I was born joyful. People say, did all your life experiences kind of cultivate this joy? No. I mean, I was just born just a happy person. I love life. I'm totally in love with life. And I really set forward early on in my life to be very healthy. And a few weeks into medical school, I wasn't feeling well. And I ultimately collapsed, was taken to the hospital, had to go to urgent surgery. And the next day, this was in 2000, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, a diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, given 3 months to live without treatment, 20 months to live with treatment. It was very difficult. They said I needed to drop out of medical school. They said I would never be able to have children, but I just stayed the course. I really upheld a healthy lifestyle that gave me autonomy over my disease. David, I remember looking out when I had my bone marrow transplant and seeing everyone else essentially dying in an effort to stay alive. But I described that I really attained my vitality without pause. And there were so many different elements that contributed to that. But it was just such a gift to be able to experience and face my mortality at such a young age, and to be able to kind of flip that script on cancer and really transition it to more of a teacher of life. And I am grateful for that experience at such a young age. It's made me a better physician, a better person, and a better communicator. Unfortunately, those treatments really affected my heart. The tumor was wrapped around my heart,
Mm.
compressing all the major vessels. I was in cardiogenic shock. So when I received radiation, it had to go right to my heart. I never want other people to think, oh, this is why I'm not going to do chemo. This is why I'm not going to do radiation. We knew that this was likely going to be collateral damage, but they cured the cancer, right? So shortly after my cancer diagnosis, I was diagnosed with advanced heart failure with an ejection fraction, how much my heart beat is of 8%. And this was in 2003. And so I lived with heart failure for 18 years. I had a near-death experience in 2016 with a flatline for 4 minutes,
Oh,
came back to life. That, right there, gosh, I mean, in the near-death experience, I describe it as total acceptance of the complete unknowing. I mean, if there's any bigger lesson in life, it's that. And, if people question divinity or a creator, God, whatever your term for that is, something bigger than ourselves, I was embraced in the hands of God. It was just a sense of
yeah,
all-encompassing
totally.
love,
Totally.
unity, harmony, and stillness. And that moment of my near-death experience was what was embodied when I met the Dalai Lama. It was exactly that same unified love that I experienced. So after that near-death experience in 2016, things were really challenging. It was constantly downhill. The last surgery I had was in 2019. I actually had a stroke with that surgery, lost vision in my left eye. And then that led to me being listed for heart transplant in 2019. So heart failure is just so hard for a young person. You're kind of shackled with it. And I'm a high energy, if you can't
Yeah,
tell,
I
person.
know.
So no one would have known. I probably functioned with like normal energy, but oh my gosh, had my heart transplant in 2021, February 5th. And I describe my life now as just effortless. It's like so easy. It's just like
I love it.
fabulous.
Well, the perspective after that, I think things are probably, even more perspective. Obviously, you had a lot of joy as you were talking about. Now, in this near-death experience, I think these are really interesting. A good friend of mine did this movie called After Death, and it was all based on people who literally could feel themselves outside of their body, looking down on their body, and with the connection to God. It's about basically like heaven exists. They're feeling that of going there, but then come back in, but they get that taste. Now, in your near-death experience, did you get that taste? Were you looking down on your body, or were you still, how was that?
I never had that looking down on my body. I actually had a second near-death experience around
Oh
my
my
heart
God.
transplant. There were multiple complications after the original transplant. They had to take me back to the operating room. And this is one I don't really share because that one was very turbulent. And I don't know. I have a thought behind that. It's kind of probably a long discussion, but at that point, I had a new heart in my body, and I just
Yeah.
wonder. Again, during my near-death experience, I described total acceptance of the complete unknowing. I was raised with faith in my life and deep belief in
Yeah.
God, and this
Yep.
concept of heaven. And after my heart transplant, all of a sudden I have a new heart, a new perhaps perspective that was joining my own unique, understanding of what that means when you may be crossing over to the other side, if you may be. So that was a very turbulent experience where I remember seeing outside my body. I felt like my body was twisting and turning, and it was just awful. It was very confusing and disoriented. And I remember kind of just wrestling with what was going on. So I understand what people mean by seeing outside their body based on that second experience I had following my heart transplant. But for me, the 4-minute near-death experience, that was just this harmony of this other transitional plane of existence, wasn't one that I was seeing down below. I remember my body feeling like it was floating and as if I was
Yeah.
just being handled by
Wow.
the hands of God. There's a doctor, Dr. Grayson, who had interviewed me, and he takes accounts of near-death experiences and writes on them. And he said the one thing that is the common finding is that unified love of just being held, just like you had said, David.